You mean?
I'm pregnant, Martin. Dr. Thompson confirmed it yesterday. It's your child.
Well, how do I know it's my child?
It's your baby. You know that as well as I do.
Oh, Trish, I...
Oh, I promised myself.
Well, I liked it. As usual, locked into our board are words and phrases that show how sure you are of your predictions. Joe and Philip, from what you've just seen, if a channel was to screen that program, how do you think it would go? We'll start with Joe. Your reactions and predictions, of course, and it's against the clock. Your time starts now.
I predict that people will turn off in the first 5 seconds. It's likely that some people will turn off even earlier because it was so badly acted. And probably some people will laugh. Possibly some people will even shriek with laughter. But then again, even with all that, it could catch on.
Well, good on you, Joe. You certainly made your feelings known. Philip.
I'm not as sure as you, Joe. Doctors, nurses, pregnancies, all good soap stuff. The TV executives will certainly see that a doctors and nurses show is a good bet, and I think it's probably fairly unlikely that the audience or the viewers will turn off because of bad acting. I think that they look for a nice, juicy story. TV stations, I predict TV stations will see that, or might think that they have a hit on their hands. OK, good points, Philip. Joe, any last words from you?
Well, I'd say that it was impossible to predict the success of any show, really, no matter how good or bad.
Oh, I see. You're having an each-way bet now. Philip?
I tend to agree a bit there. And those characters might not finish as badly as they started.
Fair enough.
Hard, wouldn't it, really?
Very difficult.
Well, a good round from both of you, and let's just have a look and see how sure you were of your predictions. Pretty certain up there with will and certainly. A little less certain with likely that and probably. Even less certain again with might and possibly. And then right down the bottom there's could. Well, there you have it. Words to show how sure you are of your predictions. And that's all for round 2. Joe, you've managed to creep into the lead. Well done.
Yes.
But we'll be back with round 3 in just a minute. Don't you go away.
Space-age technology. We have made the same traditional watch for decades, but now we predict that the modern man will want more from a watch. What would happen if the 21st century man were to be a regular space traveler? What would the 21st century man need in a watch if he were to plumb the ocean depths? We produced the 21st century watch, tested it, and the proof is here for all to see. Modern man will certainly love it. It's impossible that anyone would not. It's even probable that he might even want more than one. Possibly one for someone special. Unless our 21st century man develops a clock in his head, then this is the watch for him.
What do you think will happen? He's sure to be furious. Certain? He'll not have a bar of it, I'm certain. Well, surely it's likely he'd want to talk about it. Probable, I suppose. But then, at the same time, it's unlikely he'd agree. But then he might listen to what I've got to say. Possibly. But then he might not. Suppose the least you could do is try, though. It could work. And if you don't do it, you'll never know. If I go and see him, then he's got to listen to me, doesn't he? Well, unless you do it, you'll get nowhere. OK, if I were to say to him, Mr. Smith, sir, I haven't done my assignment. He could say, oh, what a pity. He would say, Charlene, get it done by tomorrow or you'll fail. That's for sure.
It's Dear Doris time again. And here's Mandy from Maroubra again. Are you there, Mandy? Can you hear us, Mandy? We're getting a lot of background noise there. Where are you exactly?
Over and out. I can hear you, dear Doris. Where do you think I am? I'm here at school, where I seem to have spent all my life. I'm just so confused. I mean, I've got all these things to look through, and school courses, employment services, you know, graduate courses. I'm trying to make up my mind about what to do with the rest of my life. It's my future that I have to make a decision about. It's a really, really hard problem, and I hope you can help me. See, firstly, I could stay at school. Now, that would be really good, because I like it here. And I am captain of the netball team, you know, and I've got heaps and heaps of friends here that I really, really get on well with. Yeah, hi, Sandra. What? Now, I'll meet you at the tuck shop. I've just got a few things to do here. Sorry. And also, I really get on well with my teachers. They're grouse. And I like the subjects I'm doing, especially history. That's really good. The thing is, I don't know if my future is in history. I mean, it just deals with the past. Now, secondly, what I could do is I could go to tech. Now, look, electrical engineering, insurance certificate courses, applying for a job, courses in marketing. I think it could really open up my talents, you know. There'd be lots of interesting jobs that I could possibly get. Trouble is, it would be about 3 or 4 years of study, and I just don't know if it's worth it. And on top of that, I don't know anybody at tech. And besides, it would take me ages to get there on a bus or a train. Now, thirdly, I could get a job. Now, this could be really good. It wouldn't matter what kind of job, any kind of job, because the main thing would be there wouldn't be any more study. Well, I'm really sick of it. And besides, I'd have money for the first time in my life. I'd have money to go and buy cosmetics and go to rock concerts and buy lots of Goanna albums. Yeah, that'd be great. And I could have nice clothes, you know. I could go down and buy things every week if I wanted to, and I wouldn't have to wear this draggy uniform anymore. The only thing is, how would I be sure that I could get a job? So you can see my problem, dear Doris. I just don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I'm at crossroads. Do you reckon you could help me make up my own mind?
Well, Mandy, you've played the what-if game very well so far. You've thought about what could happen if you take a particular line of action, and that's good. But let's see what Joe and Philip have got to say. Joe.
Well, Mandy, what if you stayed on at school? What could be the consequences? You would certainly still have your friends and most likely still be able to play basketball. Now, what about schoolwork? Have you thought about talking to a careers guidance counsellor? Because if you talk to them, they might be able to tell you what courses you could study if you stayed on.
And what if you went to tech? What could be the consequences of that decision? By your own admission, you make friends easily. So I'd predict that if you went to tech, you'd make friends there as well. You also suggest that courses may be relevant to you and also to getting a job later on. But how could you go about testing that thought?
And you wonder how you could study for another 3 or 4 years. Well, one way of finding an answer about that is to go and talk to some of the students there and ask them how they're getting on, how they feel about it. You could also find out if the tech's got a basketball team. And if they do, there's a possibility that you could still play.
You came up with some interesting hypotheses about your third option, getting a job. If you get a job, then you'll get more money. But how much more? Have you thought about that? I mean, your parents certainly wouldn't be paying your bus fares anymore if you were working, and you'd probably have to help out at home with the housekeeping. So you'd probably have to help out financially there if you were earning a salary.
If you were to get a job, there'd be no more study. Well, that might be true, and it might not. What sort of a job were you thinking of? If it were a job that needed very little skill, you might be right. And you might be able to, you most certainly be able to predict a future without any more study. But on the other hand, if you got a job that you liked and were interested in, well, then you might want to train on the job to do better. A lot of employers take people on to train them, and that would most certainly involve more study.
And can you predict that a job that gave you money now but didn't give you satisfaction in a year or two's time is really the job that you'll want?
Well, Mandy, we think you've taken some very good first steps. You've obviously thought about the consequences of your actions. The next step for you is to test those and see if they are real consequences. And good luck to you too, whatever you decide. Well, a fascinating and very interesting round, that one. Philip, you've managed to catch up and the scores are once again tied. So I hope you're going to stay tuned for a very exciting final round, which is coming up straight after this break.
Coming soon, a program that looks at what might happen with our energy needs and consumption.
Domestic oil production from existing fields has peaked and could decline. It is possible that new discoveries may alter this picture. But without them, Australia faces a serious decline in oil self-sufficiency by the year 1990. It is also anticipated that oil consumption will increase. So what of our future? Imported oil? What other alternatives should we look at for Australia in the future? Should we be looking for alternative fuels, or a reduction in our standard of living and return to a less energy expensive lifestyle? Should we be looking at developing technology to help us conserve energy? Compare this energy consumption of a conventional house to a low energy house.
And with his tongue firmly placed in his cheek, Furry Cutler takes a swipe at those picnickers who litter our bush.
A strange new species has invaded the Australian bush. Here is evidence of their presence. What possible explanations can I give on the basis of this? It could be that these creatures are trying to lay claim to this area, leaving messages that it is their territory. However, evidence in other of these sites suggests that they don't return. Perhaps their intention is terrorism. Either these creatures don't understand the bush, or they are out to destroy it. Quite puzzling. Now, what of the future if this continues?
2 great programs coming soon.
What about our future? Where will we live and how? Right now, there are people in every state predicting and planning.
The first Europeans to settle in Sydney could never have imagined how much their town would change. For example, in 200 years, Sydney has grown from a small village to a city and suburbs of more than 4 million people. In the early years, much of Sydney was unplanned. There was plenty of space and not that many people. Most people didn't think about what might happen to Sydney in the future. But over the years, governments realised that if Sydney's population continued to grow, then there would be less space for everyone. The answer was to plan the city's growth so that homes, businesses and roads would be built where they were most needed. It's now the job of town planners to predict how Sydney will develop. The planners have to decide what Sydney's people will need in the future. For example, if the population increased quickly, then there could be a need for new suburbs in unsettled areas. However, there would be problems. Sydney, for example, is surrounded mainly by national parks and rugged country. These areas can't be developed because people don't want to lose any more natural bushland. As well, some of these areas are important for Sydney's water supply. Rain that falls here eventually finds its way into the dams that provide the city with water. Another problem is that town planners don't want Sydney to develop as it has in the past, where new suburbs were built a long way from the older parts of Sydney. People living in these new outer suburbs often have too far to travel, both to work and to the shops. More new suburbs will certainly mean greater problems for governments, who have to provide expensive services. Pipes have to be laid to carry water and sewerage. Electricity has to be provided, as well as gas and telephone lines. If the new suburbs become heavily populated, the government might have to provide new schools and hospitals. But if there are so many problems with new suburbs, then where will Sydney's increasing population live? Town planners see the answer as having more people living in older established suburbs. This can happen in several ways. A block of home units can be home to 5 times the number of people who would have lived in houses built on the same area of land. Older houses can be replaced by modern townhouses, which don't take up as much land. If a factory or warehouse goes out of business, then it can be converted into apartments for people who like living in the inner city. Planners also have to decide where new highways or freeways will be needed. To do this, they have to predict where people will live and where they will work. They also have to consider if such freeways will be an attractive part of the environment. planners often make mistakes in their predictions. In Adelaide in the late 1960s, town planners expected the city's population to grow very quickly. It was decided to build a new city at Monarto, about 60 kilometres from Adelaide. The state government spent millions of dollars buying large areas of land from wheat farmers. Plans were made for suburbs and a city, which would also be the new home for the South Australian Parliament.
Distributing the major urban functions, such as the city centre, the lake, the living areas where people live, the industrial areas, and the major transport lines running over the whole thing.
But in 1975, the Monarto project was abandoned. All that remains are long rows of planted trees. Adelaide's population had not increased as anticipated, and there was no reason to build a second city.
Well, nobody's perfect. And let's have a look now at how perfect or otherwise Joe and Philip are as we play the blanks game. Are you ready, both?
Yeah. Of course.
Good.
Yep.
According to what we have just seen, it's the job of town planners to blank how cities will develop. It's the job of town planners to blank how cities will develop. You can almost hear those brains working. Are you going there, Philip? Got an answer for us?
Of course.
Let's have a look.
Predict.
It is their job to predict, absolutely. And Joe?
Predict.
Twin answers. Well done. Both correct. Next question. Governments have to provide expensive new services such as blank to new suburbs. Governments have to provide expensive new services such as blank to new suburbs. Joe's finished. Let's have a look at that answer.
As schools.
As schools, absolutely. And Philip?
As sewerage.
Sewerage. Where would we be without our sewerage?
Down
Both
the drain.
correct. Next question. The national parks and bushland are blank for Sydney's water supply. I'll run that by you again. The national parks and bushland are blank for Sydney's water supply.
Dare to write something really silly.
Need the points. The whole game's hanging on this one. How you going? Nearly finished?
Yes.
Joe, let's have a look. National
Academic
parks.
spots.
Oh,
something really
get it out, get it out. Philip, what have you got?
Essential.
They are essential for Sydney's water supply. Yes, thanks very much. And that makes today's game a dead heat, amazingly enough. We've got 2 passwords winners. Congratulations, both of you. But now it's time for you to predict something. Stay tuned and have a little look at this.
You didn't know what to say. I think it's the first time I've ever.
Hey, you're getting very good now, Tracy. Your kicks are so strong. For a girl.
Hey!
Whoa! Nearly as strong as mine. Hiya! Die!
Die.
Yes, all enemies die.
Why don't you take that uniform off? You don't have to advertise the fact that you can carve yourself.
Hey, Trouble is my middle name. Hey, you and me make a great team.
I hate violence.
Come on, you love it.
What? I do not. It's just that nobody, and I mean nobody, is ever going to tell me what to do. Nobody. Come on. Ow!
Okay. What a temper. Hey, but Tracy, what if you saw someone in trouble, huh? And you weren't angry, and it wasn't for fun, and you were really scared?
Hey, what's that?
Police cars.
Outside my place.
Great, let's go.
Mum? Oh, it's you, Tracy. What's going on across the street? Shh, it's on the radio.
We repeat that the man suspected of being the family law court boss
Cops
has been
everywhere.
surrounded by...
Hey, Jackie, stay away from that window.
No details.
Why wouldn't they let
have
Jackie
been
go
released
past
by
his
police.
place? It's all right, it's all right.
The man
Something's happening.
And his taxi has been seen at the scene of the 2 bombings.
Mum, what is going on? Jackie, ring your parents.
Oh, no way. They'll tell me to come home. I'm staying here.
They came to take his kids away. Then, just as they were leaving with a couple of police, he started firing this rifle through the window. Then more police came, then the TV cameras. Is it 6:30 yet?
No.
What is it?
For the past 3 years, we've been living next door to a murderer.
Oh, don't think about it.
All those nights Dad was away.
Tracy, make some tea.
He could have crept over in the middle of the night and murdered us in our sleep.
Ninjas never sleep.
I'm not a ninja.
Don't worry about it, dear. Jackie, will you turn on the television, please? The police are here now, anyway. He probably just needs a good talking to. I mean, all those people ever get treated is just like a number, and no one really cares. Jackie, what's happened to the news? What's that?
On Doctor Who.
After they were called and began firing volleys from automatic weapons in front of the building. Even as I speak, you can see just over here Detective Sergeant Steve Davis in charge of operations, accompanied by policewoman, social worker, and they're talking to the man who shot. Oh, look, I think we better get some cover. There's shots up fire here.
He's grabbed that policewoman. He shot the cop.
Jackie, stay away from there.
He's headed this way.
Come on. Jackie, what are you doing?
Getting ready for action.
There'll be no action for you, young man. Now, you just stay where you are and behave yourself.
He's coming towards his house.
My God, he's on the veranda.
Hands off or I'll kill him! I'll kill before I'll kill again!
Oh no, he's shot the social worker and run into the house over the road. Police seem to be unable to control him. There are people actually in the house. Will Jackie slam him? Does Mom have the answer up her sleeve? Or will Tracy come to and deck him? Stay tuned.
I love a good cliffhanger. What do you think will happen now? Can you base your predictions on evidence of what those characters are like and how they might react under pressure? Bye. We'll see you next time.
So that's it for today. And who can predict what might happen next week? Our happy housewife tried out some interesting hypotheses about how to get her washing clean. We predicted how you would love the new 21st century watch, or could possibly like it, or would certainly love it. Anyway, city planners love to predict, but great to see that even they can be wrong. Our economist made a few observations about our future and how we might do something about it. Stay tuned for